أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كلام الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم شر الأمور محدثاتها فإن كل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Once again, welcome to the class of Umratul Ahkam by Hafiz Abdul Ghani ibn Abdul Wahid ibn Ali ibn Surur al-Maqdisi rahimahullah. Today is the 20th of Rabi'u al-Thani 1447, which is equivalent to the what's today's date? For the 12th of October 2025. In our last sitting, we read the hadith of Abdullah ibn Abbas, where the author says, وعن عبد الله ibn Abbas رضي الله عنهما قال أقبلت راكبا على حمار أتاني وأنا يومئذ قد ناهزت الاحتلام ورسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي بالناس بمنى إلى غير جدار فمررت بين يديه بعد الصف فلم ينكر ذلك علي أحد. That was the last hadith that we read. Oh? Inshallah, today we are going to start from the next hadith, where the author says, وعن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت كنت أنام بين يديه رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ورجلاي في قبلته فإذا سجد غمزني فقبضت رجلي فإذا قام بسطتهما والبيوت يومئذ ليس فيها مصابيح. هكذا نعم يكي؟
نعم.
وعن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت. This hadith was reported on the authority of Aisha. May Allah Ta'ala be pleased with her. قالت, she said, كنت أنام, I used to sleep بين يديه رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, in front of the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم, وَرِجِلَايَ فِي قِبْلَتِهِ, and my legs are to his qibla. Are we together? فَإِذَا سَجَدَ, and whenever the Prophet ﷺ prostrates, that is when he goes for sujood, غَمَزَنِي, he pushes me, he touches me, my leg. فَقَبَضْتُ رِجْلَيَّ, then I bend my legs, I remove my legs from where he's supposed to prostrate. فَإِذَا قَامَ, and then whenever he gets up, بَسَطْتُهُمَا, I stretch my legs. وَالْبُيُوتُ, and the houses, especially that of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, يَوْمَئِذٍ, at that time, لَيْسَ فِيهَا مَصَابِيح, there were no lights, no lamps, no lanterns, no light. That is to say, the Prophet is praying in the darkness. So since she is lying mu'taridatan to in front of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she's not able to see the Prophet because of the darkness. Until when the Prophet touches her, that is when she knows that the Prophet wants to prostrate. Then she removes her leg. So had it been there had been light, she wouldn't wait until the Prophet touches her. She will do what? She will remove her legs the moment she sees the Prophet coming for sujood. Are we together?
No.
So the reason why she tells you, وَالْبُيُوتِ يَوْمَئِذٍ لَيْسَ فِيهَا مَصَابِيح, so as to tell you that she does not see the Prophet in the darkness. So until the Prophet touches her legs, that is when she knows that the Prophet wants to prostrate. Then she removes her leg and the Prophet prostrates. Then when the Prophet gets up, then she stretches back her legs. Are we together? Now it tells you that the rooms of the Prophet Muhammad, the room was not very spacious, not wide. So much so that when the Prophet stands and she stretches her legs, there is no sufficient space for the Prophet to put his head, while her legs remains where they are. Until she removes her legs, that's when the Prophet will be able to find space to put his head. Are we together? You can see the simple nature of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were not living spaciously. Are we together? May Allah Ta'ala be with us. Now, this hadith that is in front of us, the author brings it here, under this chapter, and we learn the following. Number one, that it is permissible for one to pray towards a sleeping person. Because she said, Kuntu anamu. I used to what? Sleep. So it follows that you can pray towards somebody who is sleeping, and as well take him as the sutra. Are we together? That's what this hadith demonstrates to us. In spite of the fact that Ibn Hibban narrated from the hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar, may Allah Ta'ala be pleased with him, that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited us from praying towards a sleeping person. Are we together? Or praying towards somebody who is impure. Are we together? Aynaha Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam an yusalli ar-rajul ila na'imin aw mutahaddithin. So the Prophet ﷺ prohibited you from praying towards somebody who is sleeping or somebody who is impure, as reported by Ibn Hibban. But most of the hadith narrators, they say this hadith is not authentic. Are we together? Now, of course, there are some scholars who authenticated it. And they say, okay, how do we do with this hadith of Aisha? Because she said, Kuntu anamu. They say, no, that of course, the hadith, if you take each of the chain, are we together? They have problems. But they can be Hasan bishawahi. So, bimajmu' at-turuq. Bimajmu'i at-turuq. They say the hadith is authentic. Are we together? No. We said, we have talked about at-taqwiyah. They do taqwiyah to hadith. Hadith is da'if, but if it comes through many chains, the chains could be added together to elevate the status of the hadith, and then the hadith become hasanun bi-shawahid or hasanun bi-ghayri. Are we together? We have as-sahih li zatihi. We have as-sahih li ghayrihi. We have al-hasan li zatihi. And we have al-hasan li ghayrihi. Are we together? So we say al-hasan li ghayrihi. Each of the chains of narration has problems, but when they are added together, they are put together, it raises the status of the hadith, and the hadith becomes hasanun li ghayrihi. Are we together? So there are some scholars of the opinion that this hadith is hasanun, the hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar, that the Prophet prohibited us from praying towards somebody who is sleeping. They say the hadith is hasanun li ghayrihi. So it is not wanted for somebody to pray towards the one who is sleeping, because you never know when he will wake up and leave. So you were thinking he will be there, and then he suddenly gets up and then leaves. And especially in one of the riwayats of Al-Bukhari, said that Aisha tells us that sometimes while the Prophet is praying, and she had to attend to something, a need. Are you understanding me? Then she sleeps gradually and leaves. You understand what I mean by sleeps? S-L-I-P, not S-L-E-E-P. She sleeps off gradually and then leaves the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So she says she does not get up so that she does not distract the Prophet. She only sleeps off. I don't know whether I understand it. And then she leaves. Are we together? So you never can tell who you are praying towards whether he would leave. But Allahi hal, scholars say what is most authentic is majority of the narrators say this hadith of Abdullah ibn Muhammad that was reported by Ibn Hibban. They say it is not authentic. Are we together? So it follows that it is permissible to pray towards somebody who is sleeping or lying down. Are we together? Again, it also shows the permissibility of praying towards a woman. Praying towards a woman. Are we together? Because Aisha radiallahu anha, she's a woman. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is praying towards her. Are we together? Some scholars say that you observe that Aisha radiallahu anha, she is the wife of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in that regard, la yatim al-istidlal, you cannot say generally, mutlaka, that any woman, he said, al-ajnabiyya, a strange woman. It will not be allowed to pray towards somebody who is a strange woman because of the possibility of you as a man getting some forms of distractions or attachment or pleasure. Are we together? While looking towards the woman. You know, the Prophet told you that a woman approaches in the form of shaitan and she gives her back in the form of shaitan. So whenever she approaches like that and she raises your lust, the Prophet said, go back to your wife. Because in your wife has what that older woman. So if you are praying to a woman who is strange and the beer, and then you go up, down, are you understanding me? You are looking, you never can tell what the shaitan will be implanting in your heart. Are we together? So that is why some scholars say that the woman to whom it is permissible for you to pray towards should be not necessarily your wife, or you be her mahram. She shouldn't be a strange woman. She's your sister. Your sister is not your wife. Are you understanding me? If there is no marab in your qalb, what attraction will you get towards your sister, your aunt, your mother, your daughter? Are you understanding me? All these are people that naturally, there's no attraction you get from them. Are you together? But of course, there are people, we are in a nation, are you understanding? We are in a world where you find all forms of incest today. You find a mother sleeping with her son. You find a father sleeping with his daughter. These are things we see every day, we read. May Allah Ta'ala be with us. Alright? Now again, we had discussed last week that there is the hadith of Abu Hurairah and the hadith of Abu Dharr al-Ghifari, Jundub ibn Junada, that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Yaqta'u salat ar-rajul idha lam yakun bayna yadayhi mithlu mu'akhirat ar-rahab al-mar'at wal-himar wal-kalb al-aswad." Right? So the Prophet tells you that the prayer of an individual is cut off if he does not have a sutra in front of him. Whenever three categories of things pass in front of him, among them is the woman, and then the donkey, and then the what? The black dog. Now, Dawood al-Zahir and Ibn Hazm al-Andalusi, and their likes. They are of the opinion that this yaqta'u means al-butlan, that the prayer is what? Vitiated, is invalidated. You don't have any reward. You have to start all over again if a woman passes in front of you, if there is no sutra between you, or passes between you and the sutra. Your prayer is invalidated when a woman passes. Are we together? Or when the donkey passes, or when the dog passes. Now, Imamuna Ahmad ibn Hanbal, like we told you, used this hadith in front of us to tell us that a woman cannot invalidate the prayer of a man if she passes in front of him. Are we together while he is praying? Why did Imam Ahmad say that? He said, if you can pray towards the woman, she is in front of you. Pray. Are we together? So if you can pray towards her while she is in front of you, in Bible Aula, she only passed. Are we together? Throughout the prayer, she's in front of you. Are we together? So her passing will not nullify your prayer. This is the argument of whom? Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Are we together? With us. And he also says, because of the hadith of Abdullah ibn Abbas, that the donkey passed in front of the praying people, he also said the donkey can also not invalidate the prayer. But he said, with regards to the dog, if it passes, your prayer is what? Invalidated. Because he has not seen any nas that goes contrary. He has seen nusus with regards to the woman. This is the nas that is in front of us. And he has seen nas with regards to the donkey, which we have read last week. He said that he has not seen that of the dog, which is authentic. Are we together? So to Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, if a woman passes in front of you, or the donkey passes in front of you, your prayer is not invalidated. But if a dog passes, then your prayer is invalidated. Are we together? But Imam Abu Hanifa, Nu'man ibn Thabit, Imamuna Malik ibn Anas, Imamuna, who remains? Muhammad ibn Idris al-Shafi'i. These are the three that remain. They are of the opinion, as Jamhur, they are of the opinion that nothing invalidates the prayer. Nothing invalidates the prayer. And they understood the hadith of Abu Dharr and the hadith of Abu Huraira that it means the reward of the prayer is what? Reduced. Because of the hadith of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, Sa'd ibn Malik, Ibn Sinan, that the Prophet said, لا يقطع الصلاة شيء فادرؤوا ما استطعتم. أي لا يقطع الصلاة شيء. Nothing can invalidate prayer. فادرؤوا ما استطعتم. But try as much as possible to push anybody who wants to pass in front of you. Now, if you go to Bible Sutra in Bulugh al-Maram, you see this hadith of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, but the hadith is not authentic. So if it is not authentic, there is no ta'arud between al-hadith and the hadith of Abu Dharr al-Ghifari. Are we together? Again, you know, Aisha radiallahu anha, she's a woman. And when they told her about this hadith, says, Shabbahtumuna bil humuri wal kilab. And the essence, the reason why she even said this hadith is when she had the hadith of Abu Dharr al-Ghifari, that the Prophet said, Yaqta'u salata. And he says, Shabbahtumuna. You make us, you men, you are making us similar to donkeys and dogs. Why make us similar to donkeys and dogs, for Allah's sake? While I sleep in front of the Prophet while she is praying towards me. Aisha is trying to do what? To disapprove of this. Are you understanding? That we say al-muthbit muqaddamun ala nafi. Are we together? So if she's not aware of that hadith, the fact that she's not aware does not mean the hadith is not authentic. She's only not aware. Are we together? So, but some scholars say that this hadith, yes, the hadith of Abu Dharr al-Ghifari and Abu Huraira is authentic. But Imam al-Tahawi, he says that this hadith of Aisha has abrogated the hadith of Abu Dharr al-Ghifari and Abu Huraira. Are we together? But we have told you that da'wah of an-naskh. First of all, we told ourselves that if nusus seemingly want to contradict each other, are we together? We said the first thing is to do al-jam'u bayna al-adillah. Are we together? Is to do jam'u, to use the ahadith together. In amkana al-jam'u. In amkana al-jam'u. So that you don't throw away one hadith and then hold on to one hadith. You use the ahadith together. If they can be used together. It is only when they cannot be used together that you think of another thing. Then you think of an-naskh, abrogation. But you cannot talk of abrogation for you to know the nasikh and the mansukh until you know the tarikh, until you know the dates of the hadith. So that you know the hadith that preceded each other. So that you say the one the Prophet first said has been abrogated by the last one that he said. So if you do not know the tarikh of the ahadith, you cannot say one has abrogated the other. And in this regard, the ahadiths can be used together. Are we together? So we don't talk of an-naskh unless they cannot be used together. And in this regard, these ahadiths can be used. How do we use them together? The hadith of Abdullah ibn Abbas, we have told you that scholars say what it means is if you pass behind the imam, in front of the ma'mum. It is not talking about when you pass in front of, between the imam and the... Because Abdullah ibn Abbas did not pass between the imam and the sutra. Are we together? He passed behind the imam. And the hadith of Abu Dharr and Abu Huraira, they are talking about somebody passing between the praying person and the sutra. Are we together? And the hadith of Aisha is not talking about murur. It is talking about an-nawm. Are we together? It's not talking about passing in front of a praying person. It is talking about lying in front of a praying person. Are we together? So they can be used together. Are we together? So in the end, if these three categories pass in front of the praying person and the sutra, the prayer is invalidated. Except that the Jamhur understood the invalidation to mean reduction in reward. Are we together? Are we together? That's all I believe. Again, this hadith demonstrates to us that touching a woman while praying or after ablution does not invalidate the ablution. Are we together? Not to talk of even the prayer. Touching the woman does not invalidate the what? The ablution. Not to talk of the prayer. We have discussed that before. Now we have three opinions of scholars with regards to whether touching the woman invalidates the prayer. Are we together? There are those who have the opinion that touching the woman completely, mutlakan, invalidates your ablution. Once you touch a woman, your ablution is invalidated. You have to do what? Renew the ablution before you pray. Are we together? No. Why did they say that? They say that the Quran says, وَإِن كُنتُم مَرْضَى أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ أَوْ جَاءَ أَحَدٌ مِّنكُم مِّنَ الْغَائِطِ أَوْ لَامَسْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ فَلَمْ تَجِدُوا مَاءً فَتَيَمَّمُوا صَعِيدًا طَيِّبًا. Are we together? Now, Mahal Shahid, أَوْ لَامَسْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ, and you touch the woman. فَلَمْ تَجِدُوا مَاءً, and you do not find water for tayammum. Then you do tayammum, dry ablution. So it follows that after you have performed ablution, and then you touch the woman, your ablution is invalidated. If there is water, you renew ablution. If there is no water, you do tayammum. Are we together? Now, al-lamsu wal-massu wal-mubashara. I can say, فَلَآنُ بَاشِرُوهُنَّ وَابْتَغُوا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. So this mubashara, is it a rumbumeta? Because the Aisha said, وَكَانَ يُبَاشِرُنِي وَأَنَا آخِدٌ. Right? Yubashiruni wa ana ahidun. I think you should understand that the mubashara there will not be what? Sexual intercourse. Because she said wa ana ahidun. Are we together? Now, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, among the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, understands awla mastumun nisa. You say maduna jima. Maduna al-jima. So it means touching. It means touching. When you touch practically, it says your ablution is no more. This is what Abdullah ibn Mas'ud understands from this ayah, that al-lamsu here means touching. It does not mean sexual intercourse. I don't know whether we are following. May Allah Ta'ala be with us. But we have told ourselves, and since Abdullah ibn Mas'ud has this understanding, and this is the understanding of the Mazhab al-Shafi'i. Are we together? The Mazhab of Imam al-Shafi'i. They have the opinion that when you touch the woman, your ablution is what? Invalidated. Are we together? Are we together? But we said that Abdullah ibn Abbas, Turjuman al-Quran, Hebrew al-Ummah, is of the opinion that this la mastumun nisa, al-lamsu here does not mean what? Touching. So mutlakan, if you touch a woman, your ablution is what? There. Your ablution is not invalidated by touching a woman. Are we together? And this is the opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa, Nu'man ibn Thabit. Are we together? Following the interpretation of Abdullah ibn Abbas. Are we together? So mutlakan, Abdullah ibn Abbas is of the opinion that if you perform ablution and you touch a woman, your ablution is valid and you go and pray. Are we together? Are we together? Because awla mastumun nisa here means when you have sexual intercourse with a woman and you become sexually defiled and you do not have water to take the ritual bath, it is then that you do what? You do tayammum. Are we together? Again, this one day you have to talk about Quran. Khilafan lima dhahaba ilayhi Umar. Because we have told you here that Umar ibn Khattab and Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, they have the opinion that if you are sexually defiled, you must wait for water to take the ritual bath. And that you cannot do tayammum for sexual defilement. Are we together? This is the argument of Umar ibn Khattab. We have read it here if you go to Abu Dawud. But this argument of Umar ibn Khattab, and you had the situation between him and Ammar ibn Yasir. Because Ammar ibn Yasir confronted Umar ibn Khattab. Said, have you forgotten when the Prophet sent both of us on an errand? Are we together? And he said, Ya Ammar, ittaqillah. Umar could not remember. Are we together?
No.
But Ammar ibn Yasir told you, and we have read it here. When the Prophet sent him on an errand, and he became sexually defiled, and he said, and there was no water. He said, فَلَمْ أَجِدَ الْمَاءَ فَتَمَرَّبْتُ فِي الصَّحِيحِ كَمَا تَمَرَّبُ الدَّابَّةِ. And then I rolled in the sand, just like the animal rolls in the sand. And then when I got back to Medina, فَذَكَرْتُ ذَلِكَ لِلنَّبِيِّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. And the Prophet said, إِنَّمَا كَانَ يَكْفِيكَ أَن تَقُولَ بِيَدَيْكَ هَكَذَا. And he taught him how to do the tayammum. In order to tell you that tayammum can be done for sexual defilement. Are we together? So touching the woman does not invalidate your what? Ablution. According to Abu Hanifa, and that before him, Abdullah ibn Abbas. Are we together? And among the evidences is the hadith that is before us. Are we together? That the Prophet is praying towards Aisha, and whenever he wants to prostrate, he touches her. So if his ablution will be invalidated, why should he touch her? Are we together?
No.
May Allah be with us. But in our own mazhab, the mazhab of Imam Malik, he is of the opinion that touching the woman does not invalidate ablution mutlakan, and it will also not be said that it invalidates ablution mutlakan. Are we together? Imam Malik says you cannot say it invalidates ablution mutlakan, and you cannot say it does not invalidate ablution mutlakan. Are we together? So what does he do? And you read it in your Ashmawi Ko, you say وَبِاللَّمْسِ وَهُوَ عَلَىٰ أَرْبَعَةِ أَقْسَامٍ. So al-lamsu وَهُوَ عَلَىٰ أَرْبَعَةِ أَقْسَامٍ. And he said, إِن قَصَدَ اللَّذَّةَ فَوَجَدَهَا فَعَلَيْهِ الْوُضُوءُ. إِن قَصَدَ اللَّذَّةَ. When he intends by touching the woman to derive some pleasure, then he touched and he derived, then his ablution is invalidated. He has to. وَإِن قَصَدَ اللَّذَّةَ وَلَمْ يَجِدَهَا فَعَلَيْهِ الْوُضُوءُ. قَصَدَ اللَّذَّةَ. He intended, فَلَمْ يَجِدَهَا, and he did not get, because of the intention, then his ablution is invalidated. So akanema وَإِن لَمْ يَقْصِدِ اللَّذَّةَ وَوَجَدَهَا فَعَلَيْهِ الْوُضُوءُ. إِن لَمْ يَقْصِدْ. He never intended to derive pleasure by touching the woman. Ama wajadaha, he got it. In the Maliki school, he says, فَعَلَيْهِ. Ama in lam yaqsid al-lazza wa lam yajidaha fala wudu alayh. So you can see how Imam Malik went through. This is his position. Go back. Ama we say, and we have read in our Bulugh al-Maram, that Aisha radiallahu anha, she told us, وعن عائشة رضي الله عنها أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قبل بعض نسائه ثم خرج إلى الصلاة ولم يتوضأ. أخرجه أحمد. Right? He said from Aisha, and then the Jesus قبل بعض نسائه, and the Prophet kissed one of his wives. ثم خرج إلى الصلاة. Then he went out to what? Pray. وَلَمْ يَتَوَضَّأ. And he did not renew his ablution. Are we together? Which means the ablution is what? Valid for. So the question we may ask, if you kiss a woman, do you intend to derive any pleasure? Eh?
It depends.
It depends, who? Is there? Do you derive pleasure when you kiss your wife? It's not out of affection, but and so since it is not out of affection, there is what? There is pleasure.
Some is a culture of
It's his way of breathing. But of course, even if it's a way of breathing, it's also part of affection. Are we together? So in that regard, this hadith, قاطع لمحل النزاع, right? But وضعفه البخاري. But Imam al-Bukhari said this hadith is what? Da'if, is weak. So, in kana al-hadith da'ifan, la yustashhadu. If the hadith is da'if, it cannot be used as an evidence. But Sheikh Samir, in his footnote, he says, Sahihun. He said the hadith is what? Authentic. Rawahu Ahmad, wa Abu Dawud, wa Nasa'i, wa Tirmizi, wa Ibn Majah, wa huwa, wa in da'afahu al-Bukhari, wa a'allahu ghayruhu, illa anna unaka man sahahahu, wa huwa as-sawab. Are we together? Are we following? He said, Sahihun, the hadith is authentic. Rawahu Ahmad, Imam Ahmad narrated it. Wa Abu Dawud, and Abu Dawud, wa Nasa'i, wa Tirmizi, wa Ibn Majah. Wa huwa, and this hadith, wa in da'afahu al-Bukhari. Even though Imam Bukhari said the hadith is da'if, wa a'allahu ghayruhu, and others aside Bukhari, they say the hadith is defective, ay ma'lul, lahu illa. Illa, except that anna unaka man sahahahu. There are people who have authenticated the hadith, wa huwa as-sawab, and that is the right thing. So he said, Wanzur al-Ba'th al-Mati' lil-Allama Ahmad Shakir rahimahullah, حول هذا الحديث في تحقيقه لسنن الترمذي. Imam al-Allama Ahmad Shakir, he did the tahqiq of the hadith, and he went to say that the hadith is what? Authentic. Are we together? Are we together? So if the hadith is authentic, whether or not the hadith is authentic, if we go by this hadith that is in front of us, this hadith that is in front of us is the hadith of Bukhari and Muslim. Are we together? And the Prophet touches Aisha while he is in prayer. Are we together? That is why some scholars say that if you touch the opposite sex, are you understanding me? Your prayer is not, or your ablution is not vitiated mutlakan. Mutlakan. Whether you intended to derive pleasure or you did not intend to derive pleasure. Are we together?
No.
Are we together?
now.
We have gotten all these three positions of scholars. May Allah Ta'ala be with us. Now again, this hadith demonstrates to you the end of the hadith. You know, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is praying, and it is in the night, right? To tell you it is a tahajjud. Are we together? And Aisha is asleep. Then Aisha radiallahu anha, in completion of the hadith, she says that, and whenever the Prophet intended to do the witr, he wakes up. He wakes her up. And she gets up, performs ablution in order to do the witr. Are we together? So, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, he says that we get from this hadith that if it is time for prayer, you wake the sleeping person. Are we together? You don't say, when you were natural, When may but a tired dish. That the person who is sleeping, you don't wake him up. Since what he misunderstands the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the Prophet said that man nasalliyaha idha dhakaraha la kafarata illa dhalik. La kafara, the Prophet said that man nasiya salata, whoever forgets a prayer, aw nama anha, or he sleeps over the prayer, falyusalliha idha dhakara. Let him do the prayer whenever he remembers or whenever he wakes up. So he understands that. So if somebody is sleeping, the Prophet has given him permission to continue to sleep. No. When you sleep and nobody is there to do what? To wake you. Can't you see that the Prophet himself, whenever he travels, even in a war expedition, and they want to sleep, what does he do? He makes some companions to stay awake, so that when it is time for prayer, they will do what? They will wake them. And you remember what happened when he said, Bilal should keep guard, and then when it's time for prayer, he should wake them. And he was overtaken by what? Sleep. So what woke the Prophet, was the heat of the morning sun. And then the Prophet woke up, and he woke Bilal. He said, you should wake us. The king that overtook you was also overtaken. And the Prophet said, okay, they should leave that place. And then they went to Al-Burhan, and then they performed ablution, and then the Prophet told Bilal to call the prayer, and then they prayed. So you can see that the Prophet takes precaution so that he does not sleep off. And he tells people to keep guard so that he wakes them. So whenever somebody is sleeping, and you know it is the time for prayer, is have alarm to wake you, or tell somebody to wake you. Are you understanding me? So is it not munkar? Somebody should be sleeping, it is time for prayer. Wake him. And we have read that this of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, that they asked him. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud asked the Prophet Muhammad, and he says, Ayyu al-a'mal ahabbu ila Allah. And he said, as-salatu ala waqtiha. In one narration, he said, as-salatu fi awwali waqtiha. Don't you want to be among them? People who will pray ala waqtiha, and every time you are sleeping. That is why Imam Al-Qurtubi, he says it is not only recommended for you to wake the sleeping person when it is time for prayer. It is said it is wajibun min al-wajibat. It is obligatory for you to wake him when he is what? Sleeping, so that he will do idrakul jama'ah or idrakul awwali waqti salah. Are we together? Yeah. Now, Aisha is telling you that because of the darkness, when the Prophet is praying, she does not see the Prophet coming for sujood until the Prophet touches her leg. Then she takes her legs off, the Prophet prostrates, and when she hears the recitation, she knows that the Prophet is up, she stretches her legs. Are we together? So it means that the room is what? The room is dark. The room is what? Dark. The room is what? Is dark. Was the Prophet not created from light? I said, was the Prophet not created from light? And since he is created from light, everything around the Prophet should be what? Bright. There should be light. There shouldn't be darkness around him. Are we together? So, Ba'dul Mutasawwifa, you know the Sufis. You say, the Prophet was created from light. The Prophet was created from light. So anywhere the Prophet is, there is what? Light. So Aisha is telling you in the hadith that is muttafaqun alayh that wal buyutu yawma idhin laysa fiha masabih. You have to talk wal buyutu yawma idhin laysa fiha masabih. Ga misbah, ga manzo Allah ma ai shine nurun ala nur. Aski ne manzon Allah. Amma physically, ko ba ka bane? Physically, no. The Prophet is a physical being. إنما أنا بشر مثلكم يوحى إلي. So don't say if the Prophet is in the room, everywhere will be light. Now, in Jami' al-Saghir, it is reported that the Prophet Muhammad told Jabir ibn Abdullah that أول ما خلق الله نور نبي. أول ما خلق الله نور نبيك. نبيك. وأول ما خلق الله نور, because نور is here is the مفعول. خلق الله. Allah is fa'il. Are you understanding me? And the nura is the maf'ul. So أول ما خلق الله نور نبيك. So the first thing that Allah Ta'ala created is the nur of your Prophet. So the Prophet was created from nur. The Prophet was created from the sperm of his father and his mother. Are we together? Just like every other being is salawatullah taslimatu alayhi. So this hadith, that أول ما خلق الله نور نبيك, Imam Suyuti said it is not authentic. It is not authentic. So the Prophet was not created from nur. Are you understanding me? Are you understanding me? But the Quran ascribes nur to the Prophet, and that is the nur of what? Guidance. The nur of what? Guidance. So that you do not give the Prophet what ordinarily the Prophet did not give or ascribe to himself. And so that you do not belie the Prophet. The Prophet had told you authentically that أول ما خلق الله القلم. The first thing that Allah Ta'ala created was the qalam. And he asked the qalam to do what? To write. And the qalam said, what should I write? And he said, write from now till the end of time. It was written. So the Prophet did not say he was created, that the first thing that was created is the nur of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So there are other things that we've written, but inshallah we'll stop here. So, and then next week we continue from another hadith. And we take it lightly, like kadan. It's better. Khairul kalam ma qalla wa dalla. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك.